Storytime. My ex threatened to kill me and then shut down the school with a bomb threat. And it ended up on the news. So me and this guy that we'll call Charlie dated on and off from my freshman to sophomore year. We ended up breaking up because he cheated on me. But during my junior year, he was dating one of my friends who was a senior. He wanted her to go around the school and find a spot for them to make out, but she didn't really feel comfortable with this. So I decided to grab her phone and hide it from her so she wouldn't be able to leave with him. He found out that I had her phone and he approached me. He told me to give it back and I was like, no, it's not your phone. Well, he decides to grab my wrist and threaten me. Later that night, I got a screenshot sent to me saying that I was lucky that he didn't have a knife on him like he normally does. Well, the next day in school, we all walked to the counselor's office, me, his girlfriend, and some other friends who all had screenshots of this text. He literally followed us because we were with his girlfriend. The office gets us set up writing statements about him, but also told us that he would need to write one too. So once he was finished writing his, he leaned over to my friend and then threatened her by pulling out his knife. This is when he blows things quite literally out of proportion, so stay tuned and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2, my ex threatened to kill me and then shut down the school with a bomb threat. So after he turns around and threatens my friend who's helping report him, he rushes out of the building and we turn and tell the office lady what he just said. She tried to call for him to get him to come back, but instead he ended up just bolting across the campus. They released my friends and I to go back to class, and everything was normal for about 2 class periods, but then in the hallway on our way to our 3rd period, they made everyone evacuate to the fields. They didn't even tell us why we were being evacuated, and we had to wait out there until it was all cleared for us to go back in, and once we were back in our classrooms, we were told it was a bomb threat. Everyone ended up finding out that it was Charlie who made this threat. It actually came out that he was threatening people with an unknown substance in a vial that he kept in his backpack. Come to find out, it was just makeup, like powdered makeup, that was unmarked. To this day, we don't know why he had makeup in his backpack and why he was saying that it was a bomb, but it was literally all reported on the local news in our city. Follow me for more story times and add me on Instagram for more content. So this is about the time that I almost got arrested for sneaking into an abandoned hospital. So about an hour away from where I live, there's this abandoned hospital, and me and 3 other friends had went there previously to do a little photo shoot, but it wasn't until another night that we decided that there was still spots that we hadn't explored in there yet. So we picked up another friend and we stopped by a store and we grabbed some flashlights and drove an hour out to the abandoned house. Pretty much the entire area surrounding the hospital is abandoned too. So there's a bunch of broken down neighborhood houses, a school, a gym, a church, all just eerily gone. So we pulled into the parking lot and got out and got all of our stuff ready to explore. And this time we were able to check out the entire thing. Here's a picture of what it looks like during the day. So you can only imagine what this looked like at night. And the whole time we felt like we were being watched. During this, 2 very intoxicated men show up and they asked if they could join us with our exploring. They were kind of cute, so we said yes. But that's when we saw flashing lights from outside the building. The cops showed up and blocked the entrance, so we knew we were gonna have to make an escape. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. So this is about the time that my best friend spread a rumor that I had an orgy with 15 girls. So in my freshman year of high school, I became friends with this girl that we can call Sarah. I started to get red flags immediately after we became friends. After people started to notice that we were hanging out, I got so many DMs on Instagram telling me to watch out for her. Anyways, I didn't believe them and I continued to be friends with her for a while. But then she got really jealous once I started to talk to this guy. I turned him down, so I thought that she would calm down too, but she did not. I could really feel that something was off. The next time we hung out together, she hid her phone around me. I knew that this was really weird because 1, it had never happened before, and 2, just like, why? Is something gonna pop up that you don't want me to see? I also went over to her house to hang out and I noticed that her parents were whispering a lot and kind of looking at me funny. But again, I just brushed it off until I got a DM from an old friend from elementary school. She stated that Rachel told many people that I had had an orgy with over 15 girls. So this is when I decided to get revenge. Storytime about my emotionally abusive ex-fiance and his psychotic family. So when I started college, I met this guy on Facebook. And I mean, he was a dreamboat. We hit it off immediately and I knew that he lived in my hometown, even though I was out of state for college. And when I tell you this guy was sweet, I mean, he could put Nicholas Sparks novels to shame. While looking back, a lot of the stuff was cringy. He was my first relationship. Well, one day when we were on the phone, he was talking about how excited he was to be married one day and adopt animals together. I was totally excited about it with him, and he decided to propose on the phone, on the spot. He was like, please don't embarrass me. I'm down on one knee in front of everyone right now. And so I just said yes. Well, I thought this was the beginning of my happy ending. Things got worse. He became extremely obsessive and controlling. He would blow up my phone whenever I was in lectures and get a hold of the college admissions office when I wouldn't respond, and would yell at me if I fell asleep because he thought I was ignoring him. I would literally wake up to text about him hurting himself or selling my nudes. I was so scared that he was actually going to do something crazy that I left school and started driving back to my hometown. Once I got there, I met his family and realized just how messed up everything was. You won't believe what happens next. Follow me on Insta in the meantime. Storytime about my emotionally abusive ex-fiance and his psychotic family. So once I got to town, I was finally able to meet his family, and he told them that I went to an Ivy League school and got in only because I was autistic, which was just untrue. I immediately noticed that the relationship between his mom and him were completely off. They both had each other as their wallpaper on their phone, and she acted as if she had a crush on him. When we decided to introduce both of our families together, his mom told my mom that she's sad that I don't look more like her because she's beautiful, then proceeded to say that it's nice that her son spends so much time with me even though I'm homely looking. She was also a therapist and claimed that it was her job to manipulate people and control their minds. Yeah, I bet that's the person you want to see when you're down. Because my boyfriend was in the military, when he went back overseas, I was pretty much forced to be on Skype with him 24/7. It didn't matter where I was, and if I didn't respond, he would post horrible things about me on Facebook. Or he would send me videos of cats or puppies getting eaten by snakes to get back at me. I didn't watch them because they were so upsetting, but I was still too scared to leave him, and I was entirely sleep deprived. Stay tuned for what's next and follow me on Instagram. Storytime about my emotionally abusive ex and his psychotic family. So I was still not prepared to leave him and had to be on Skype with him all the time, in the bathroom or in the shower. If I refused and asked for privacy, he'd tell me how horrible and how ugly I was, and that he'd end his life because of my cruelty. The only time that I didn't have to talk with him was whenever I was hanging out with his mom. And when I did this, she would spend the entire time talking about him. She would tell stories about him and show me pictures, and in the pictures she took of him, he was either shirtless or sleeping. And the weirdest thing is that she said she taught her son how to be a good lover, whatever that means. She would also frequently tell me that I was going to hell for having sex with him, and she only knew this because she would log into his messages and read them. She talked about my body all the time and tried to give me tips so I could be prettier. This went on for months until I eventually made the decision to break up with him, and I had to move in with a friend because he kept sending scary things to my house. He would send stuffed animals with their limbs or head removed. He would also send empty envelopes, probably just trying to get me to come outside. Not long after this, he sent his cousin to try to kidnap me, and he said that he was doing this all in the name of love. Thankfully, this is over now, but if you have a story you want to share, follow me on Insta. Storytime about how I fell for a pathological liar. So when I was 14, I had a really good friend who had a boyfriend. I had never met him before until one day I saw them both walking together. I introduced myself and they ended up breaking up later on. That's when he slid into my DMs on Facebook. At the time, I literally didn't make the connection that they were the same person because I'd only met him that one time. Long story short, we messaged back and forth a lot. I ended up taking the bus and hooking up with him, and we pretty much spent every day together since then. Everything seemed great, and then things went downhill in a very scary way. He would constantly flirt with other girls on Facebook who were literally all bots, and he would change his cover photos to pictures of them. He would literally just lie and make up excuses on why he was doing that. But I was still kind of young and he was 17. Then at my sister's wedding, he ended up exchanging info with one of her best friends, and one night when I was gone, he told me he was hanging out with her. She later messaged me and said that wasn't true. I came home to confront him and he screamed at me and threw me across the room. He beat me until I passed out and then woke me up by pouring a bottle of water over me. Somehow he manipulated me into staying with him past this, and things got even worse. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2 on how I fell for a pathological liar. Being in this abusive relationship, I felt completely alone. I stayed with him for a while longer, but it all built up to this one moment. I told him that I was so tired of him hurting me that I was just gonna hurt myself. And he responded with, "You don't know anything about pain," and he locked me in a room. He pulled out a gun and pointed it to me and handed me a knife. He said if I wanted to just kill myself, just go ahead and do it. Obviously I didn't, but this was just another form of his psychological abuse. While I didn't leave him that night, I soon moved to Arizona to get away from him. For the first time, I was alone and without him, but I was able to help myself. I started working out, reading self-help books, meditating, and fixing my mind. I went from me begging him to stay to him begging for me back. The message that I have is that no matter how alone you feel, the person that can help you all along is yourself. Please take the time to find your own inner peace and never let anyone blind you from what you deserve. Show some love to the girl who sent in this story. And if you guys have a story that you would like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. So this is about the time that my toxic best friend tried to sleep with my dad. To provide just a little bit of backstory, we'll call this friend Jordan. And I met her over this past summer and it turned out we both had kids around the same age. So of course, wanting my kid to have a little bit of interaction, we decided to do play dates together. Our kids started hanging out so much that we got really, really close. And I honestly considered her to be really trustworthy. So I decided to invite her to this family cookout. And that's when things really hit the fan. From a distance, I saw herself introducing herself to my dad, giving herself a little hair flip and blatantly flirting. I would like to add that Jordan has been happily married for years. So watching this flirting get worse, I decided to confront both of them. I was like, yo, I do not approve of you hooking up with my dad. He's 20 years older than you and you are married. She was like, okay, and I thought it was left at that. So months go by and I have her over to help me take pictures for OnlyFans. I was doing like a little promotion thing and she offered to hop in the pictures with me, which I thought was totally cool. But then her husband comes home to surprise her, and then I kid you not, he looks over her shoulder and sees her sending them to my dad. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2 to my toxic friend trying to sleep with my dad. So after Jordan's husband came home and saw that she was sending my dad the OnlyFans pictures we took, he turned around and got upset with me and
the shit that we have been through. I was a mess at times, then took all parts and made them collide until the right ones fell into line. To get something unpredictable, you feel